Stop! Wait! Don't spend that 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar. Seriously, before you put that dollar back into your wallet, your coin jar, or the cash register, take a few seconds and actually look at it. Because there's something about the 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar that makes it one of the most interesting US dollar coins to search through. And no, I'm not saying every 1979 Anthony dollar is worth a fortune. That would be ridiculous. But I am saying that if you have one, there are some details you should check before you treat it like an ordinary $1 coin. So grab your coin, put it under a good light. Turn the brightness up on your phone if you need to. And get ready, because we're going to inspect this thing from the date to the mint mark, from the rim to the reverse, and from the condition to the smallest details you might normally ignore. And here's the first question. Do you know which 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar you have? If your answer is no, don't worry. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for. Let's start at the beginning. Look at the front of the coin. You see Susan B. Anthony. Now move your eyes down. Find the date. 1979. That date is extremely important because 1979 was the first year the Susan B. Anthony dollar was released. That alone makes the coin historically interesting. But we're not here just because it's old. We're here because the details can tell us what we're actually holding. So don't rush. Look at the date. Look around the date. Look at the rim. And now, look at that mint mark. Do you see a tiny P? Maybe a D? Maybe an S? Or maybe there's no mint mark at all? Don't ignore that tiny letter. It might be one of the smallest things on the coin, but it can be one of the most important things to check. Now here's where the hunt gets interesting. If you have a 1979 piece Susan B. Anthony dollar, I want you to pay very close attention to the relationship between the date and the rim. Look at that date. Now look at the inner border around it. Does the date look relatively far away from the rim, or does it appear noticeably closer? Wait, if your date looks unusually close to the rim, don't spend that coin. Put it aside. Take another look, because collectors know a particular 1979P variety, commonly called the wide rim, or near date. And this is exactly why looking at an old coin for 2 seconds isn't enough. At first glance, two 1979 dollars can look almost identical, but put them next to each other, and suddenly you may notice the difference. One date looks farther away. The other looks much closer to the rim. That's the kind of detail that makes coin hunting fun. Now grab another 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar if you have one. It doesn't have to be the same mint. Put the two coins side by side. Look at the dates. Don't look at anything else for a moment. Just compare the spacing. Look at the top of the date. Look at the bottom. Look at the distance between the numbers and the rim. Now look at the overall shape of that inner border. Does one coin look noticeably different? If yes, don't rush to a value. First, figure out exactly what you're looking at. That's one of the biggest rules of collecting. Identify first, value second. A lot of people do the opposite. They see a coin. They search the internet. They find a giant number. And suddenly they think they're holding a fortune. That's not how serious collecting works. The exact coin matters. The exact variety matters. The condition matters, and authentication can matter too. Now let's talk about condition. This is something people underestimate. Take your 1979 dollar and look at Susan B. Anthony's portrait. Look at her cheek. Look at her hair. Look around the lettering. Look at the open areas of the coin. Do you see lots of tiny scratches? Little contact marks? Heavy wear? Or does the coin still look surprisingly sharp? Think about how old this coin is. We're talking about a coin from 1979. It's been around for decades. It could have spent years in circulation. It could have been carried in someone's pocket. It could have been sitting in a cash drawer. It could have been thrown into a jar. It could have traveled across the country. And every time it touched another coin, every time it hit a hard surface, every time somebody handled it, there was another opportunity for the surface to get marked. So if you find a 1979 dollar with unusually strong details and very clean surfaces, pay attention. Condition can change the collector appeal dramatically. But here's something you absolutely should not do. Don't clean it. I know exactly what some people are thinking. It's dirty. I can make it look brand new. No, don't do it. Don't use toothpaste. Don't use vinegar. Don't use baking soda. Don't use metal polish. Don't scrub it. Don't scratch it. Don't rub it aggressively with a cloth, and don't try some random coin cleaning trick you saw online. If you think the coin might be interesting, leave it alone. The original surface is part of the coin. You can take the dirt off, but you can't always undo the damage you cause while cleaning it. So remember, if it might be valuable, leave it alone. Now let's turn the coin over. Look at the reverse. You should see the eagle landing on the moon. Take a second. Look at that design. Look at the stars. Look at the lettering. Look at the rim. Now slowly tilt the coin under the light. Look at the surfaces. Do you notice anything strange? Maybe the strike looks unusual. Maybe one part of the design appears doubled. Maybe the rim looks different. Maybe something seems shifted. Maybe there's a feature you've never noticed before. Stop! Don't immediately call it an error. This is where you need to be careful. A scratch isn't automatically a mint error. A dent isn't automatically a mint error. A gouge isn't automatically a mint error. Damage that happened after the coin left the mint is not the same thing as a genuine production error. So the question is, was this feature created when the coin was made? That's the question that matters. Now imagine your coin has something that looks like doubling. You see an extra line around a letter. You see a second edge around a number. You see something unusual on the design. That's when you compare it. Find another example. Look at the same letter. Look at the same number. Look at the same area. Does the feature appear in the same place on the second coin? Probably not. Now look again at your original coin. Is the unusual feature consistent? Does it look like part of the design, or does it look like a random scratch? This is where patience matters. Don't let accident make the decision for you. Let the evidence make the decision. Now let's go back to that tiny mint mark. For a 1979 P coin, the P is extremely important when you're checking the wide rim or near-date variety. Look near Susan B. Anthony's shoulder. Find the P, then go back to the date. Look at the spacing. This is where you want to slow down. The wide rim version can have the date noticeably closer to the rim than the narrow rim version. And that's why some collectors specifically search through $1979. You're not just looking for a coin that says 1979. You're looking for the right combination of characteristics. Now imagine you're going through a box of old coins. You find one Susan B. Anthony dollar, then another, then another. Most look ordinary, but suddenly one looks different. You put it aside. You grab a second coin. You compare them. The date on one seems farther away from the rim. The other looks much closer. You look at the mint mark, P. Now your curiosity goes up. You grab a magnifying glass. You look again, and suddenly you're thinking, could this be the one? That's the exact feeling that keeps collectors searching. Maybe it isn't worth a huge amount. Maybe it is, but you won't know until you investigate. Now let's talk about the 1979 S. If your coin has an S mint mark, don't just ignore it. Some 1979 S proof Susan B. Anthony dollars have different styles of the S mint mark. Collectors commonly refer to these as different types. So if you're holding a 1979 S proof, look closely at that tiny S. It might look filled or less clearly defined on one type. Another style can have a more distinct, clearer appearance. And again, this is why the smallest details can matter. Most people look at the coin and see S. A collector might look at the same coin and ask, which S? That's the difference between simply looking at a coin and actually studying it. Now here's something else. Don't assume that every 1979 Hess is rare. Don't assume that every 1979 P wide rim is automatically worth thousands. Don't assume that every old Anthony dollar is a jackpot. The coin world doesn't work that way. There are common examples. There are less common examples. There are varieties. There are errors, there are high-grade coins, and there are extremely rare combinations. The value comes from the specific coin, not just the year printed on it. And this is why those huge online headlines can be misleading. You might see 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar worth thousands, and immediately think, I have one. Slow down. Maybe you do. But first ask, which mint? Which variety? What condition? Is it a proof? Is it circulated? Is it certified? Does it actually match the example that sold for that amount? That's the smart way to approach coin values. Don't chase the headline. Chase the details. Now let's imagine your coin is heavily circulated. The date is readable. The portrait has obvious wear. The reverse has scratches. The rim has marks. Does that mean the coin is worthless? Not necessarily. But it means you need to have realistic expectations. Now imagine another 1979 coin. The date is sharp. The lettering is crisp. Susan B. Anthony's portrait has strong detail. The reverse looks clean. The coin has very few marks. Now you've got a completely different situation. Condition can become extremely important at the higher end of the market. Now here's another thing I want you to check. The edge turned the dollar sideways. Look all the way around. The edge should have a consistent appearance. Look for anything unusual. Does it look normal? Does the thickness seem consistent? Do you see anything that looks like damage? Does something appear different from another dollar? If you notice something unusual, don't start cutting the coin open. Don't file it. Don't scrape it. Don't test it with chemicals. Just document what you see. And if you're serious about a coin that appears unusual, take clear photographs. One photo of the front, one of the reverse, one of the edge, one close-up of the date, one close-up of the mint mark. And if there's a possible error, take a close-up of that feature too. Good photographs can help you compare the coin with known examples. And if you eventually seek professional authentication, having clear images is useful. Now, let's go back to the history. Susan B. Anthony was an important figure in the American women's suffrage movement. Putting her portrait on a U.S. circulating coin made the dollar historically significant. The coin was small compared with the Eisenhower dollar that came before it, and its size was intended to make it more practical. But the public often confused it with the quarter. That created a major challenge for the coin, and eventually, the Susan B. Anthony dollar disappeared from regular circulation. But that doesn't make every surviving example rare. That's an important distinction. Historical importance and market rarity are not always the same thing. Now here's the fun part. The 1979 date is exactly where your treasure hunt starts. You can find these coins in old collections. You can find them in coin jars. You can find them at estate sales. You can find them in inherited collections. And sometimes people have them sitting around without realizing there are different varieties. That's why checking your own collection can be so rewarding. You already have the coin. Now you just need to learn what you're looking at. Let's do a full inspection together. Take your coin. Hold it between your fingers. Step 1. Find the date, 1979. Good. Step 2. Find the mint mark. PDS, no mint mark. Good. Step 3. Look at the date to rim spacing. Is it farther away or unusually close? Step 4. Look at the condition. Heavy wear, moderate wear, sharp details, extremely clean. Step 5. Look at the surface. Any unusual marks? Any suspicious doubling? Any signs of cleaning? Step 6. Flip it. Study the reverse. Step 7. Turn it sideways. Check the edge. Now, look at everything again. And here's a trick that can make this much easier. Don't inspect the coin for 10 minutes straight. Take a break. Look at something else. Then come back. Why? Because your eyes can get used to what they're seeing. When you step away and come back, small differences can suddenly stand out. That's something collectors learn over time. Your eyes get trained, you begin to recognize normal. And once normal becomes familiar, unusual features become much easier to spot. Now imagine you have a jar with 50 old coins. You're tired. You're going quickly. You look at each one for 1 second. You see a 1979 Anthony dollar. Nothing special. Into the pile. But what if that coin was actually the one you should have examined? That's why speed can work against you. Slow down. You don't have to examine every coin for an hour. But when a date or mint mark catches your attention, give that coin an extra look. Now let's talk about mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes is assuming that because a coin is old, it must be rare. That's not true. Another mistake is assuming that because a coin is shiny, it's valuable. Not true. Another mistake is believing every social media price. Also not true. And one of the biggest mistakes of all? Cleaning the coin. Don't do it. Here's another scenario. You find a 1979p. You look at the date. It seems close to the rim. You compare it with another 1979p. The difference is obvious. Now you're excited. But before you start thinking about money, ask yourself, is the coin genuine? Is the variety correctly identified? What's the condition? Does it have damage? Has it been cleaned? Would a professional agree with your identification? That's how you move from excitement to actual collecting knowledge. And that's what I want you to take away from this video. Not every 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar is a hidden fortune, but every 1979 dollar deserves at least a quick inspection if you are interested in collecting, because the fun isn't just in finding something valuable. The fun is in discovering something you didn't know was there. A tiny mint mark, a different rim, a different date position, a special proof variety, an unusual strike, a high-grade surface. One tiny detail can completely change the conversation. Now think about this. A person sees a Susan B. Anthony dollar. They think $1. A collector sees the same coin. They think Faldron 1979 P wide rim condition variety. Same coin, different knowledge. And knowledge is what makes the difference. So if you have a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar right now, don't put it away yet. Look at it again. 1979. Now find that mint mark. Look at the date. Look at the rim. Is the date close or far away? compare it, then inspect the condition. If you see something genuinely unusual, keep that coin separate, protect it, and investigate it properly. And let's talk about one more thing: value. Don't ask, "How much can I get?" Ask, "What exactly do I have?" Once you know what you have, then you can start researching comparable examples. That's how you avoid unrealistic expectations. A common circulated coin may be worth little more than its denomination. A more desirable variety can be worth more. A high-grade example can be more interesting. A genuine major error can be another story entirely. But every claim should be based on the actual coin. Now imagine you're holding one right now. You turn it over, you see Susan B. Anthony. You see 1979. You see the P. You look at the rim. You notice something. You compare it, and suddenly you're not looking at a dollar anymore. You're looking at a mystery. Why does this one look different? That question is worth asking, because that's how every good coin hunt begins. Maybe you find nothing. That's okay. You just learned what a normal example looks like. Maybe you find the common narrow rim. Good. Now you know. Maybe you find a wide rim. Now you've got something more interesting to investigate. Maybe you've got a proof. Now you know to inspect the mint mark more closely. Maybe you find a genuine error. Now you've got a completely different conversation. The point is, you have to look. So here's your final challenge. Go through your old coins. Don't just check one. Check every 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar you have. Look at the date. Look at the mint mark. Compare the rims. Compare the date positions. Look at the condition. Look at the reverse. Check the edge. And don't clean anything. If you find a coin that looks different, put it aside. Because imagine spending $1 today and later finding out you should have taken a closer look. You can't go back. Once that coin leaves your hands, it could disappear into circulation again. So before you spend it, take 30 seconds. Look at it, compare it, and then decide. That's all I'm asking. And remember this phrase: date, mint, mark, rim, condition. Say it again: date, mint, mark, rim, condition. Those 4 things can tell you a lot about what you're holding. And if something doesn't look right, add one more word: confi. Don't guess. Verify. So, do you have a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar? If you do, go get it. Take it out. Hold it under the light. Find the date. Find the mint mark. Look at the rim. Compare the spacing. Then turn it over. Look at the reverse. And ask yourself, is there anything here that I normally would have missed? Because that's the whole point. You don't need to be lucky to start looking. You need to be curious. And that's what makes American coin collecting so addictive. A coin can sit unnoticed for decades. It can be passed from one person to another. It can sit in a drawer. It can sit in a jar. It can sit in an old collection. And nobody pays attention until one day someone finally looks. Someone notices the date. Someone notices the mint mark. Someone notices the rim. Someone asks a question. And suddenly, that ordinary-looking coin becomes interesting. So the next time you see a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar, don't automatically think just a dollar. Think, let's check it, because maybe it's ordinary. Maybe it's a collectible variety. Maybe it's an interesting proof. Maybe it's an unusual error. Maybe it's simply a piece of American history. But whatever it is, you won't know until you look. One last time, check the date. 1979. Check the mint mark. P, D, or S, check the rim. Narrow or wide, check the date position. Far or near, check the condition. Worn or sharp, check the surface. Original or cleaned, check the reverse. Check the edge. And if something catches your eye, stop. Don't spend it, don't clean it, don't damage it. Protect it, investigate it, and if necessary, get it professionally examined. Because the real treasure isn't always the biggest price tag. Sometimes the treasure is simply finding something that most people never noticed. A tiny detail, a different variety, a coin with a story, a coin that survived for decades and ended up in your hands. And that's what makes the hunt exciting. So check your old coin jars, check your drawers, check those inherited collections, check your pocket change, and if you find a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar, don't spend it before you check it. Because maybe, just maybe, the dollar you're holding isn't the one everyone else sees. Maybe there's a story hiding in the details, and the only way to find that story is to look closer. So grab that 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar. Turn it over, check. The date, check. The mint, mark, check. The rim, and look one more time before you spend it.